Thank you very much. Like
Yeah.
having you come and do this first interview is like huge. It's
Yeah.
massive. Um, I've spoken to a lot of people about doing it, and there's obviously apprehension, right? Because it's difficult to sit down and talk about personal things that are going to be shared with
Mhm.
other people. But I really think that a majority of what will help people through this organization is going to be personal testimony. Because I think a lot of times people, they're going through life, their day to day, whether it's their jobs or with their kids or whatever that they're doing, and they stop, and when they do actually stop and think about their life, whether it's stress or bills or whatever it is, they feel alone. And they don't
Yeah.
think, how many times have I, even like with my kids, been like, there's no way other people are doing this right now.
Yeah.
Like when you
Yeah.
look at your own
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
and you're like, there's no way there's somebody else that's going through this. Right.
Yeah. No, it's you have to have something to hold on to, and just with a lot of the people I've talked to, it's you can feel that. You can feel that they're looking for something, or they're halfway there. Maybe they just don't have, I've been blessed to have a lot of people just guiding me a little bit here, whether it's, parents, which I realized way later
Yeah.
on, or just really good friends or people in my life. And not everybody has that, so sometimes people, are partially way there and stuff, and they're trying to figure it out. But I do feel like pretty much everyone at some point in their life is like, there's either got to be something more than me, or I can't do this on my own.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. I think that it's also more common than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of times that you have been going through that day to day and you have been so caught up. And in those times of silence, you're like, man, there's got to be something else.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and I think those are the most reflective points. Like when you're riding high and everything seems to be going right, and it's like, oh man, you're on cruise control, kind of like
Yeah.
jobs in line, relationships in line, kids in
Uh,
line for the most part. I don't think they're ever really in line, but
no.
sort of in line. And the stars are kind of coming into alignment with each other. Um, in those moments, I don't think you think about it as much, right? But when you do have those down moments and you're sitting there and you're like, man, there really does, there has to be. But that's also, that point of reflection is also really a point of hope.
Mhm.
Is if you can get there, if you can really start to understand this isn't everything,
Yeah.
all that hopelessness, all that regret, all that shame, all that disappointment, it kind of goes away,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Definitely can.
Um, so just tell me a little bit about yourself. I know that we've been friends for a good amount of time,
Yeah.
but to have a conversation about, who you are, where you've been, and what kind of makes you tick. It's usually us, we're wrangling kids,
Yeah.
and like,
Partial conversations,
yeah,
like
yeah,
over an
not
amount of
not
time.
really a chance when it's like, there's no noise,
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
toys.
This is really nice.
It's nice, right? This is also a way for us to just get away for a minute,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I'm really interested in Elijah as a
Yeah.
person. So,
Yeah. I grew up locally here in New Hampshire. And man, I wouldn't trade my childhood for anything. It was a lot of time outdoors. With my two parents, they're just really great. I'm one of five. I'm the second oldest, um and I've got three sisters and one brother. And yeah, good childhood. And as far as like faith goes, I'm what you would call like a cradle Catholic, raised Catholic, and strong Christian community. And a lot of this stuff that I'll be talking about is like things kind of taken for granted, um, that you don't think about as a kid. So kind of raised that way, but and growing up, we were always at church on Sundays, and you'd have to be in the hospital not to get there, kind of thing. And we, prayed a rosary pretty much every night. My parents were both pretty committed, and teaching us things. And well, a little over the top sometimes, but it was really good. And but it doesn't matter who you are. I think even if you're raised in that environment, like um, I wouldn't say that I was extremely intimate with it until I was really getting older, kind of late into high school, of like um, kind of that feeling of like, I'm trying to remember the time that it kind of hit me, but that feeling of I have to claim this for my own. I'm not going to church because that's what the rest of the family is doing. I'm not praying because, it's that time my family's doing it or whatever else. Like I need to be doing this in my own time, or, and really growing in that belief, especially at that age that, I'm thinking about, what am I going to do after high school? What am I going to do for college, for a career? Um, and just having those more independent thoughts that come with life. And also, as you're getting up in age, at that point, just you're coming across a lot of different things. And, you're either going to use that moral compass to guide you or you're not. And, you're just going to kind of keep things surface level. So, not that I made all those decisions in a right way, but as I was kind of going through those learning experiences, I was looking at different colleges, right? And I was kind of torn between like going the military route, at first just straight, and then my dad talked me into, um, you know, uh, going to school first and then joining the military if I wanted to. Um, and I decided on nursing because I figured I could start nursing school. I could be a medic going into the military if I wanted to, or going as an officer or something like that. So I was looking at different schools, and visited a number of them, and ultimately I decided to go to Franciscan University of Steubenville, which would have shocked me if you asked me like junior year of high school, because it was a Catholic Christian college, but there was something inside me that it was like I need to make a change somewhere. I need to be around you know like-minded people that are going to push me, even if it's not what I want to hear. So that was kind of the spark that started. I honestly, like, I've thought about it a lot, and I think there are times that you can reflect on that. For me, it's like there's, the Holy Spirit was definitely part of those decisions and guiding me. Um, and I think I look at kids that age that are juniors or seniors in high school, and I mean, those are some big decisions you're going to make. What are you going to do for a career? What are you, going to do for college or whatever? Because once you start it, if you back out of it, it's hundreds of thousands
Wasted
of
time,
dollars
wasted
and
money.
wasted time. So, um, yeah, and my parents grew up very regularly going to adoration or to church on their own, and just having that as something like that's like I started doing it and stuff, and I realized how powerful it was. Is just it gives you such clarity to
Was
do
there
that.
was there specific was it being in church? Was it being involved with your church family? Was it the interactions that you witnessed at home between your family members that were already churchgoers for a long period of time? Like what were some of the things in your own personal life that made you, like you talked about your moral compass, right? That made your moral compass so that you knew what direction was the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, having surrounding yourself with good people, whether intentionally or unintentionally, having individuals influence you in a positive way is huge. And for um sometimes you're the one being influenced. Like for me growing up, there's people I looked up to that I don't think had any idea. And now, like, you're also sometimes the one who's influencing. And I know
Yeah.
you've been a like huge role model for some people, but sometimes you might not have even realized it. It could have been you're the coach on a team, or you're part of a youth group helping lead it, um, and you have no idea just the impact you can make. So yeah, just having some really amazing people. But as far as my uh, direct relationship with Christ, it was being alone in church. Or just a few people in there, kind of thing, where it's just like you and them, and just developing. Because honestly, sometimes it's just you're quiet, and other times it's your praying, which is really just talking to God. It doesn't
Yeah,
need to be anything
just a conversation.
fancy.
Yeah.
So that, and then honestly for me, being out in nature. I think there's a lot of people around here that really embrace nature and try to get out there in it, but to me it's that feeling similar to being in church when it's nice and quiet and there are no kids there, that it's just there's peace and it's kind of you and God. And um, so yeah, and just kind of developing that growth in prayer, which I'll be honest, it's been up, it's been down, it has changed through the years, and sometimes it's been better than other times. So um yeah, but that's how it started. And then since then, I met my wife at college, and she was in that same pathway. She could have gone a lot of different routes, and she kind of made a similar decision that um, she would go to school there. And she was I actually met her in church. The very first time I met her was in the library, which is kind of corny and funny, but when the first time I was kind of pulled towards her was when I found her at church, just sitting alone, in church alone, doing a holy hour. And I was like, that's pretty cool. This is like somebody that I would want to grow with,
Yeah.
And that was just the very early on stages, but it hit me in a pretty strong way. And then we finished school, and kind of went into our careers and got married not too long after college, and now we have our 4 kids, and it's different. It's that day-to-day grind, and still making sure I find time to still be growing in my relationship, but there's also the responsibilities of teaching our kids that and growing with our spouse in that way. So I feel like I could be, you know, as old as 300 years old, and still be like working on
Yeah.
things like, so that's a brief overview of it.
I think ultimately, it's just something that I've noticed, and something that I appreciate about you guys is uh, it's the willingness to just like just continue working on it, right? Um, I think that a lot of people, they want to give their kids this idealistic viewpoint of what a relationship should be,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it on a number of levels, it sets your kids up for failure when they get older, not just in their relationships with a spouse or with their children, but also with Christ,
Mm.
right? Because it's messy. Any
Yeah.
relationship is a little bit messy.
Yeah.
I can walk down the street with my family, oh, what a cute little family, going for a walk every day. Hi, how
Yeah.
are you? Like seeing people on the street. But, come spend an hour at my house,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not
The unfiltered
it's
version.
not yeah, it's
Yeah.
not picture perfect. It's not this idealistic viewpoint. It's, are there manners? Is there respect? Are there basic foundational, morality? Yeah, of course there is. But it's a relationship, and it's messy,
Mm-hmm.
as most relationships are.
Yeah.
Are we the type of people that will subject our children to things that they shouldn't see? Absolutely not. Like if there's closed door conversations that need to be had, there's a closed door.
Right.
However, I don't want my kids to grow up thinking, oh well, as long as the weather's good and the sales are out, and oh yeah, I could do that.
Right.
Spending a lifetime with somebody is it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I also want them to look at their relationships with Christ in that same way.
Mm-hmm.
Is there's going to be times when you turn away, when you don't pray as often as you should, when you're not as grateful as you should be,
Mm.
when you don't see all the blessings that you're being provided, right? But you always come back to the table
Yeah.
with a fresh mind and a full heart, and give all of yourself to whatever it is because you love that so much. And if you can do that with Christ and in your relationship, like you were talking about, in your conversations and your prayers out in nature, um, having successful relationships is a lot easier. I found out, fundamentally, it's so much easier. Um, and so I can really appreciate that, that you guys are workers, um, and you make sure that whatever it is that you're going through, there's no stone left unturned. It's you're gonna make it. You're gonna make it because that's who you are.
Yeah, it's
You
whatever
know.
it takes, but I mean that's a really good point. Any relationship you have that's a strong relationship with someone, or back to, having a relationship with Christ, it's all of those relationships, especially if they're lifelong relationships, it's real, it's raw. Like,
Yeah.
I think the word raw is like, honestly, like it's unfiltered, but it's intense. It's the good, bad, and the ugly. Like, but it's coming back to the table. It's like sticking through really hard things.
Well, that's why, I look at it when people ask me, they're like, "Oh, well, it's like, well, why does God let bad things happen?" Right? Like that's a big question that people always
Yeah,
ask me.
yeah, it's a good
And
one.
it's a great question to ask, but I think the answer is a little bit more simplistic, right? So, you know, it's like if you can compare it to a relationship with another human being, I think it makes it a little more understandable. But, you know, God gives free will to people to make their own choices, because the love that you're willing to give, if it's done in a free will manner, is so much greater than that if you were forced to,
Oh,
right?
100%.
You know, when I was growing up, my life was a little jumbled. Uh, and, parental love and family love wasn't really something that there was a whole lot of, right?
Mm.
But the people that weren't in my family, that weren't like forced to love me, right? Like you look at your parents, you look at your siblings, you look at your family, it's like, oh, well, yeah, they love you
Yeah,
because it's your mom, that's
right.
your dad, you know, but this person who has absolutely no skin in the game with you, if they can come out and give their heart to you, it's incredible.
Yeah.
That's why that love is so deep and that affection is so real.
Hmm.
Um, and that's why bad things happen. It's not an allowance of this bad thing to happen.
Right.
It's the fact that people do bad things, and sometimes those bad things lead us on paths that may or may not be ideal
Yeah.
for us. It's that feeling of, especially with a spouse, when you look across the table and it's like, man, my wife and I have been together for 15 years now. And so I look across the table, and you do see the good, the bad, and the ugly in all of your relationship with that person, but they're still there. That's love.
Yeah.
Like that's it. And
Yeah.
there's nothing more powerful than that.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to seek in Christ is, I can rely on my wife 10 ways a Sunday. I can rely on Christ even more than that, which is incredible to think.
Yeah.
She's been a rock, same way that your family's been a
Yeah.
rock.
Yeah.
Um, Christ is even greater, and that blows my mind. Even with as long as I've been, involved in faith,
Hmm.
still blows my mind.
Yeah. There's all these like different small examples you could take, and then you could multiply it by 10,000. And as you were talking, one thing that came up in my head was, if you've ever had just a day that, um, it was rocky with your spouse, and you're
There's
at
plenty
fault.
of them.
Yeah, there's plenty of 'em.
There's plenty
And
of
it's
them.
like, it's like I fell short as a dad, as a husband, but specifically for like, marriage, and uh, you messed up, or just, how you were talking to them, or the situation, whatever, but like you knew you're at fault. And then your spouse says, like, points out, but says, like, I still love you. It doesn't matter. Like, and that's our relationship with Christ. To like, you know, you could think of the worst thing you've ever done, and for him to still be there, and it's like, I'm here anytime. You just need to come back to the table, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
I think scripture wise too. I mean, look at that's
yeah,
why I think I showed
yeah,
you some of those videos about the prophets, like if they were vloggers and had iPhones.
yeah, yeah,
They're funny, but it's real. You know, it's like people. I think it's really hard for people when they start getting involved in faith or they open their Bibles for the first time. It's like the prophets weren't perfect,
hmm,
just like nobody else is perfect, and the relationship with God wasn't perfect. You know, it wasn't like Moses was selected because he was going to do everything that God told him to every single time. Did he do more things than not? Absolutely, right? Was his faith extremely strong? Absolutely, it was. But did he have a little bit of doubt? Did he ever turn his back? Yeah. Yeah, look at
they all
they all
do.
do.
The all, even the like the very greatest ones, it's real.
Yeah.
The Bible doesn't cut anything out, you know. Um it shows it for what it is, and that, you know, they're all very real people like us.
It allows too for you to look at like, oh, the mistakes that I made. They're, you know, depending on the severity of them in a legal and ethical sense, right? It's like it's not that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really not. Like it's something that we look at and we say like, man, I don't know how I could ever be forgiven for this. You already have been.
Yeah.
Before you even did it,
Yeah.
you already have been. So give it away. Go to church, talk to God, do your thing.
Yeah.
You
Just
know,
got to keep
repent,
coming
whatever
back
it
to the
is.
table.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, you know, is there like a point in time in your adult life um that made your relationship with Christ stronger? You know, was it a struggle? Was it a triumph? Was it like whatever it was? Can you think of anything in your adult life? You know, for me, I think the first thing that comes to mind is having kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if that's the same for you, I'd love to hear, you know, your viewpoint on that. But just like something as you got out of college, as you developed your relationship, as you kind of started navigating life as an adult without your parents saying, "Hey, church, get
Yeah.
up, let's go,
Yeah.
get your tie on." You
Absolutely.
know, here we go. Was there something that made you into that person that was like, this is the way that I'm going to do it for my kids? Like their relationship with Christ and the church and God is important, and I'm going to foster it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really great question. Something that it's an interesting conversation to have with really anybody, but especially with people who don't have any, you know, faith, or don't really even know anybody that, you know, has a faith that they live by. Is we talk about miracles sometimes like it's a thing of the past, or like it's this very unique thing. Like maybe you'll see it. It's like mysterious. Like maybe you'll see one at sometime during your life, maybe you won't. And I would argue that it happens so much in all of our lives, and you know, sometimes you might not even notice it, um, but there's all these little miracles that can happen. And I think one that's very real, especially for parents, is when you have kids, that it's like this is, and when I say miracles, they're different things that point you um, to ask the question, like, there must be something bigger than just me. It's just, you know, how can this all be coincidence, you know? And for my kids, I think one very easy way to just show them how big everything is and how small we are is for them to look up at the stars. Like around here, we don't have any big cities, so, you know, the night skies are pretty bright.
Clarity's awesome. Yeah.
And it's when it's really like just kind of like a wow, like and it, I would think for really anybody, you would have that question of like, you know, is there something bigger than just like me and my, you know, little, you know, kind of view here and stuff, or is this just all, you know, coincidence or whatever? And but so kids is a good one. um you know, other miracles, it's sometimes just small moments that you might have with people. Working as a nurse, I sometimes have, again, like those really, they might be brief but really just raw moments with people. and they probably don't even know it, but it's stuff I can remember from 8 years ago or whatever. And something small they might have said made lifelong impact on me.
A patient, you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a patient in particular. So things like that. Another one I can think of was at a really young age, and this was like the mystery of growing up. And I haven't told too many people this story, but I was getting homeschooled at the time, and my mom is like, she's a drill sergeant teacher. I love her, but
Good for her.
she did not cut corners. So we were homeschooling, and she would mix in different field trips or whatever, like really good ones, and we go, you know, all over just to learn things and get that visual part learning and make it fun. So we went down to Washington D.C. I think I was 11 or 12, and we were there for about a week. And so every day we were going out to, different historical sites, trying a lot of food. That was big part of the trip. Was just every night was, try like real authentic food, which you can't find like anywhere up
No.
here. But I think if we were there, say a week, it was probably day 5 or 6 that we were out there, and we walked through some area to cut across like Chinatown or something. And there was just a lot of homeless people, which as a kid, I didn't really have a lot of exposure up here in New Hampshire, where it's, not as urban and whatever else. So, and it kind of like shook me a little bit, like all these people who had like nothing and were just sitting like, I mean, it was like the curb was lined with people. But there was this one fellow that he was missing both of his legs, and it was relatively chilly out too. He was missing both his legs, and he had his coffee cup or whatever. And it was that feeling inside me of like, I want to give him something, but like, what does an 11-year-old have? Like, I didn't have a single dollar bill on me to, give to him. Like, now looking back on it, it's like you could at least talk to him,
Yeah.
or something. And uh sat down, and it was that fear of like, don't know what to do. We were walking through. It's like we were there, we were gone, moved on. And it stuck with me. Just that feeling bad that I didn't say anything, didn't give him anything. Um, and then we went out to dinner, we went back to our hotel, and I remember just like I was in one of the 2 hotel rooms we had, I think, and I just like burst into tears. I felt so bad. Um, and my dad came over, and I remember my little brother watching me just like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and I told him just exactly how I felt. And he just kind of paused, and he's that kind of guy. Like, he'll say things like very meaningful, but he won't just like spit out a ton of words, And so he just let a moment pass by, and then the first thing he said was just like, I'm really proud of you. And we talked about praying for him, and just the things that we could do for that gentleman. And it was probably 5-10 minutes, and then went to bed or whatever. Day passes or something, and we had met my mom's brother, my uncle Dave, and his family down there. They lived right outside of DC, so they were kind of traveling around with us and showing us places. And we were I think they had some like 12 passenger van at the time, and we just like ripped off to the side at one point, and my dad and my uncle Dave were driving it, and my uncle Dave kind of leaned towards the back and was like, Eli, come up here. And so I went to the front of the van, and my dad handed me like, I don't know, 20-40 bucks, something like that. To me it seems like a lot of money. And he said, you've got somebody out there waiting for you. And I was like confused, had no idea what was going on, and walked outside, and the man, his name was Tom, um, was right there. And to this day, I've no idea. I mean, this is Washington, D.C. we're talking about.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not some small
I
place
don't
where,
know if my dad and my uncle Dave like went out while we were traveling, to some other spot and to the same area and found him. I have no idea. Because I didn't say anything when we went through there the first time. I just looked at him. Um, but I know for sure because I made eye contact with him, it was the same guy, and I still don't know. And so my dad got out of the car, um and again I was like, my words were kind of frozen, and I think all I said was like, "This is for you," and just gave the crumpled up bill in his hands and stuff, and just like wanting to say something. He had a lot to say. He's like, "God bless you," and stuff. And um but yeah, and again, it's like I think about it sometimes when we have that inclination to like freeze up and not say something. But that is exactly what happened to me, and I was just like, here you go.
yeah,
But to me, it was just like really powerful, and yeah, just perplexed on how all that came together. But like when you think of like big moments in your life, that very small incident was kind of big for me. So there's things that move our souls in various ways, and I think when you recognize like those little small miracles, and also I think that having some concept of a human soul, like why do we respect each other, people? Why do we do the things that we do? Why are we just not
no matter your worldly circumstances,
totally,
right?
absolutely, like which then leads to like human dignity and stuff like that. But just the concept of like a soul, which I think is why having children is a kind of an emotional experience, or whatever. So it's there. So you're just like looking at those things, and just it's then skimming by the surface each day, like we're talking about the weather. Like you got to think about those deep questions, and
Yeah.
it's like starts with like thinking about it yourself. Like it doesn't even have to be talking to somebody about it. It can be, um but it's right there. Just you gotta think about it, and you gotta like bring it up to yourself.
Two things that I was thinking about when you were telling that story is, you know, think about all the people that probably walk past him, right?
Hmm.
Um, and you had said, you felt like strange or weird. I can't remember exactly the exact terminology, but you felt kind of weird going and giving this guy some money. You didn't know what to say. You kind of felt a little bit off your norm,
Hmm.
right? And the first thing that I wanted to say was, the older that I've gotten, the more I've realized the less you conform to the norms of society, the closer you get to Christ. Like the more people look at you and they're like, it's kind of weird. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You're probably closer.
Right. Yeah. No,
You are.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So it's like it's that charitable, giving, loving, compassionate nature, which shouldn't be weird,
Hmm.
right? It
Yeah.
shouldn't be like, well, that's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Just keep walking. The
Yeah.
guy's made his choices.
Yeah.
He's lived his life. I don't think that.
Yeah.
And I'm weird for thinking that you should be compassionate and kind and loving and caring and
Mhm.
generous. And that's the world that we live in now,
Yeah.
is non-conforming to societal standards. Although you might be weird in the world's eyes, you're probably much closer to Christ than a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was thinking about is, as when your kids are young, and I'm seeing this kind of with Lennon now that he's getting older, is, when they're really young, their questions that they ask are really abstract. They're really out there. They're like totally unrealistic. It's like most of the time they don't even make any sense, and you're sitting there trying to come up with some sort of explanation or something that's like that will get them
Yeah.
satisfied so they can get to the next thing, right? Um, and as they get older, though, and their questions become more concrete and more scientific and, um, you know, more foundational in how things work, right? It's funny, the older that you get and the more that I've looked into science and looked into math and looked into statistics and probability, um, people might say, oh, well, there's no scientific explanation for X.
Hmm.
Or look at this science. It kind of takes you away from the Bible or God or any of these other things being as true as you think they are. And I would argue the deeper that you get scientifically or mathematically, there's less refuting that can be done.
Yeah.
You look at the statistical improbabilities that exist in nature.
Hmm.
There's design, right?
Right. Yeah.
Even just to the sense of you take the human genome, and I used to explain this to kids in school. I worked at a school for kids that had behavioral and emotional disabilities, and some of the most at-risk kids out there, kids that are totally down on their luck, that have been, you wouldn't want to live their best 10 minutes of their life,
Yeah.
um, and lacking hope and having lots of desperation and not really understanding like the value of their existence. And so for those guys to get their foot in the door with trying to think a little bit more about God and about their place in the universe was, take the human genome. You can take the human genome and you can sequence it an infinite number of ways, right? There's an infinite number of unique human beings that you could have based on the human genome. And I think there's been, I can't remember the exact amount, but I think it's like 100 billion people have ever lived in the history of the world, right? 100 billion human beings. Now, when you put 100 billion on its own, that's a big number, right? But if you put it as the numerator on a fraction with infinity as the denominator, it's almost nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
An infinite number of humans can be made. 100 billion have ever existed, but you exist right here, right now.
Yeah.
It's such a huge statistical improbability.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's almost zero.
Yeah.
To think. So out of all of the different ways that you could possibly make a human, you were made one and you're here. There's not really an explanation else like that I could give those kids to their value in this universe.
Yeah.
Like you are not one in a million or one in a billion. You're one in infinity.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that really sparks people. So like having kids, knowing that, and you see this baby and you're holding it, and you're like, you're one in infinity.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a really cool concept to think about. So I love that story. Like I said, just for the simple fact that there are so many people that their normal behavior would be to just walk past, and everybody around them, it's acceptable. That's normal because that's what I would do. But you didn't, and you're 11. You're an 11-year-old kid, and you're like, this isn't right.
Yeah, but
Something should happen.
I don't know. I think for both of us with kids in similar age, I used to think of kids as like, like simple. They're simple. Like their thought process is simple. Everything about them is simple.
One track mind.
Yeah. And but like what I've learned with having kids is like they're so complex. Maybe the way they communicate is simple or how it starts out, but like I look especially at like my daughter Sheila, who's 7, and the way she's processing things and just like how she wants to say things and how she feels, and Levi, which is he's 6, totally different, but and like they're growing all the time, but like each of them, and then Sadie Mae that's 4, like they're so complex, and as parents it's easy to like forget that. And if you tell them like don't jump on the couch one more time or else
Yeah.
and stuff, but it's like you know like how does that hit them differently? Like it how do you discipline them? How do you show love to them? Is it spending time with them, or is it like going and shooting hoops and like going to do something? And so it's I think really at whatever age, and the same thing is for people being old. I take care of so many people that are 85, 90 years old. And I think, especially as a society, we can get caught up in is like, they've got dementia, or they've got Alzheimer's, or they're forgetful. And the way you talk to them or think what they'll comprehend is just extremely simple, and that they might not understand it. Maybe they won't, but like, you would be shocked how sometimes like they're just like watching, and then they'll say something like very profound, and they might have some very advanced dementia or something, and then they'll say something and it's like, oh my
Where'd
gosh.
that come from?
So I don't
Yeah.
care if it's young, middle of life, or 20 days left. Like, it's um we're all humans and all have capacity in that area. Same thing for spectrum of life, like raise up, in an amazing way, or, like, you wouldn't want to live the roughest 10 minutes, like you said, which I think is really powerful. Still equal human
Yeah.
beings with, you know,
You got a
the
shot.
capacity for anything.
Yeah. You got a
Um,
shot.
yeah.
You're living, you're breathing, you're moving. You got a shot,
Yeah.
Um, I think the thing for me, going back to what you were talking about with like having a compass of morality, um, is it's amazing how young that's developed.
Hmm. Yeah.
I've noticed that with having my own kids, is it's incredible when you're sitting there, you're watching something on TV, and Lennon will look over at me and he'll be like, "Dad, why did that man do that? That's not right."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what do you mean right? Like right or wrong? Like, and we'll get into that conversation of, I'll be like, well, what's not right about it? And he'll explain himself, and it's
Yeah.
like, you're incredible. It's incredible how young they can recognize. And it's like the thing that's very surprising is it's like, I've never taught you that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never said that. We've never experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
But your heart says it,
Mm-hmm.
and your mind agrees with it.
Yeah.
That's like pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And that's like where I've seen really a lot of the complexity that you're talking about
Yeah.
is with morality, with love and compassion.
Mm.
And it's like, don't get me wrong, I love my kids and I'm compassionate, but I'm a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my kids all the time, like, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate that you were born to be my kids, but God trusted me with you
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah.
And this is what we do. I'm a tough dad, sometimes to a fault, and I reflect on those things. And when I make mistakes, I apologize or whatever it is that I think is right, to show them as a man that's what you do.
Yeah.
You don't walk around your house and think, oh well, I'm the man. I can do whatever I want. I'm
Yeah.
always right. I stumble, I fall, I fail because I'm still flesh and blood.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. But sitting there, like I said, and listening to him say or do certain things, that it's like, I've never gone through that with you. We've never talked about it. You've never experienced it, but
Yeah.
yet it's still something that exists in you. I think that's the beauty of having kids. That's why I think anybody that can should,
Yeah.
because it changes your whole perspective on so many things.
Yeah.
And then cracking open that Bible is so much more meaningful, because every moment that you spend with them, it's applicable. It's applicable every day in your life, no matter what, but it's just more profound in its application when you're sitting with your kids, and you have to temper what you're going to say,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to remember, okay, like, all right, well, the sons that I have, they're like having arrows in my quiver, and that's the way that this needs to be done. Whatever you just said or did, I'm going to tone it down a little bit. I'm going to show you how I should approach this, how God would tell you to approach this. So that way, when you grow up, you're doing the right things with your kids, with your family, right? It's no longer about like living your life in accordance to the Bible for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When it becomes a teaching part of your life,
Yeah.
it's so fully ingrained in everything that you do, it becomes second nature, and I think that that's really, really, really important.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Um, let's see here. I love just how the conversations flowed.
Yeah. Get to cover all sorts of stuff.
Tons of stuff. I would say, what is it today? Like, how do you walk with Christ today? So like, what's your, you say you go to church and stuff like that, and we have our families and we're trying to get them involved, but are there things that you're currently doing that you feel like are important to highlight, or are there things that you hope to do that you've been thinking about or praying on, that you wish that you had, maybe more time, or that you've applied yourself more in certain areas too? Is there anything like today that you're like, man, I really would like to do this more?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as faith goes, something that one of the men in my prayer group, Brett Lastly, mentioned that stuck with me when he said it, and this was about a year ago, um, was just because he works outdoors, and he just said very off the cuff, like, I've been working on, like, I pray through the day as I'm working and just kind of talk to God as I'm doing things, and yada yada, and I was like, why am I not doing that? Like, that is such a great way for multiple reasons to have a relationship with God, and is that you're touching base with him throughout the day. And it's like when you do stuff often, you have so much like better accountability and just guidance on your words and actions, at least in my experience. Whereas, like, if a month goes by between thinking about, your conscience and your responsibilities in Christ, and, just living your life with your moral compass, it's like if you're thinking about that once a month or once a year, you're not going to be as successful as if it's frequent. And when Brett said that, I was like, man, that is such a good idea. And I'm like, still a year later, nowhere close to it. There are some days that are better than others, but I get caught up with work or just like doing stuff with the kids. And but I did commit, like between a year and more like 6 months ago, on like, actually taking action on things that I wanted to do that would help my family grow in faith. Because for a while, especially, like, I got a 1 year old and a, 2 year old and a,
And they're all going in
three and
different
a half year
directions.
old, and like you're just like everyday survival and
Yeah, it
stuff, and
is.
it's easy to get off track. But like I really, like, it's gonna be gone in a blink of an eye. Like, I keep thinking of the things like, oh, that would be nice, like that would be nice, I would want to grow that way. It's like your oldest daughter's 7 already. You got to get your act together and like do it,
Yeah.
and like for you guys or our friends of preaches or different, it's like you see them do things. It's like they're doing it, and it's like I want to do that. Like, you pick up stuff, but the time is now. This shouldn't be your 5 year plan, like, I'm going to renovate my kitchen in the next 3 to 4 years. Like, don't put it off,
Yeah.
like, especially with kids, because it seems like yesterday Sheila was 2 and she was super cute, and I had time as she grew up to like start, yeah, we're going to pray as a family like once a day or whatever, and now she's 7. Like, it's it goes by quick. So like, um yeah, just trying to make it more frequent. Another thing I wanted to do, I use the Hallow app to, it's got stuff that's short, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you got. I've got a 30-minute work commute, so sometimes I'll use it. And it's prayers, reflections, all sorts of stuff that you can use. And so I was doing it by myself, for a while, and doing like, 10 minutes every morning. And then it was like on my days off, like, why am I not doing this with the kids? Um, and it could even be like Sunday when we go to church at 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, so we started doing it, and it was awesome. Like, we do a very short reflection, and, it was hilarious to see what Sadie, who's 4, would come up with, like how abstract it would be. And you're like, okay. But like Levi and Sheila, they're starting to get it, and just, like, really cool. And it's been on and off. Like, we were doing really good over the summer. Now we're in school, and it's, harder to do, but just like setting the tone for the day. Another thing that we have changed that I really wanted to do is, you know we we say, like, as Catholics and stuff, we have our like prayer that we say before our meal or grace, which is very like, bless us the Lord, these, like, but it's very like boom boom, and then you go into your meal, and if it's very thoughtful, like, the words mean a lot.
Yeah.
But it, like, especially as a kid, it can be a blah blah blah, and you get through it, and then we can eat kind of thing. And for a lot of our friends who are Christian, and they hold hands, and it's more like free, like what you pray for and how you do it. It's like this is so cool. Like this is how we should. So we do both now, and it's so cool because the kids get that experience of like praying out loud, which should be very similar to how they're, praying in quiet, and learning to do that. And for some of the older ones, like I do think that Sheila sometimes is already starting to like pray on her own, or we've talked about praying throughout the day. So there are like small things like that. And then like long scope, I do, I really love working with boys. I think I'm good with that. Girls, like I maybe it's an area I should grow in, but like I love like getting like young boys and just harnessing that energy um and so like I love the idea of doing like a boys youth group at some point or whatever. But and then all the outside life stuff, it's I think it's good to plan ahead, but for the most part I'm trying to like really think about like today, this year, like especially from a family standpoint and just growing our family, like what are the steps, and again, like communicating more with my wife. And sometimes it's talking about the day, sometimes it's more of just um like how are you, how are you doing overall, or like how are you feeling at church? Like, do you feel connected or disconnected? Like, is it hard for you with the youngest, and can you focus? And so it can really go anywhere. But those are the few. They're small, but this is a time in life that I've learned that it's got to start small, because it's frequent that when you do big things you fall short, and then other times you just got to pull the trigger, which is exactly what you're doing, where it's like this is a wild
Trying.
time of life, but like we're doing it. So keeping that balance. But I feel like I'm always going to people like, you or some of my other friends, or I call my dad quite a bit and just get his 2 cents, because, um, like I definitely know my view is narrow. So like just getting a second and third opinion. But yeah, a couple
That's
things.
cool. Yeah, I mean, I can I like what you talked about. Like you said, it's a small thing, but I think that it's huge. Just the prayers through the day and praying with the kids in the family. Um, because I think a lot of people they're apprehensive to it, because they think that there's definitely a way to pray. I think there's definitely a way. There's not, it's not like a spectrum of like this is really good and this is really bad, right? I think seeking a relationship with Christ in any capacity is wonderful.
Hmm.
But having your kids and your family as a whole see you having it's a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? That it can be conversational. It doesn't need to be this formulaic, pop, 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 pop. All right, did my thing.
Yeah.
There you go, brownie point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's it is that touch and go throughout the day where, you know, this thing happened at work or this thing happened with the kids and I'm going to text my wife, right? Well, why don't you text God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
all those times where
Yeah.
it's like, I'm going to call my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after you're done with that phone call, make the
Right.
next one,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the relationship that he wants with us,
Yeah.
is to hear about all of the things that we have going on in our life. Um, does it move him in any certain way? No, not really. Because at the end of the day, I think when we stand in front for judgment and, we're given our appeal and we're saying, oh, well, this was bad and that was good and I knew this. And uh, I think that he looks at us just like the way that we look at our kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where you'll stand there and I'll hear you. I've already made my determination,
Right. It's
right?
like you're getting it. You're
And
getting
and
it.
and I'll hear you out. Uh, and all those things that you're saying were so detrimental and so bad and so terrible. Like, it's like your kid's crying because they spilled their cup over or something,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Yeah.
look at it like, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's how we're looked at too.
Yeah.
Whether you're 10, 50, 100, and whether the worst thing has ever happened to you or the best thing's ever happened to you. It's like we're just these little kids, these mindless
Yeah.
little kids that
Yeah.
just
No,
have no concept of it.
it's an interesting perspective, but I think you're right. Um, yeah, but
And I think too, you look at there's so much that anybody can try to do better, but I think a big thing, especially with what I'm going to try to do with this whole organization, is I want people to work into their lives something that's sustainable, right?
mm,
It's really easy to, when you start something new and you start getting really passionate about it, to overextend yourself,
mm,
right? And it's a short-lived, really like just a flash in the pan.
mm-hmm,
Um, and it burns out very quickly. It needs to be this slow burning wick,
mm-hmm,
because that, like we talked about earlier with relationship, that's what relationships need. Is It's not this wonderful summer love story.
mm-hmm.
We're talking about a lifetime.
Yeah,
And if it's just this flash in the pan, you got nothing left to give, it's not going to work. And so, I think that I want people to really, anybody that watches this, to, if you can go to church on Sundays, great. If it's one Sunday a month, great. Um, Start there, and
yeah,
let that be your norm for a period of time. Like, show yourself that it's sustainable and feasible. And then if you want to join a study group, if you want to be a part of, the after church activities, whether it's with the food pantry or the bake sales or the
yeah,
whatever it is that's going on, like, work things in slowly, and have it be digestible, because whatever it is, if it's sustainable for you, it's going to be long lasting and it's going to be more impactful. So, I think just like my advice for you in that circumstance would be like, I like how you said they're small things. Well, really quantify, like, are they really small things that you can uphold? If they are, then do them. There is no
yeah,
better time than now.
yeah,
The thing that I try to really try to get Lennon to recognize as much as possible, because there's sometimes when he gets into this mindset where it's like, it's not that his life is bad. It's just it's not as ideal as he would like it to be.
yeah,
Right. I think that's it, most people. Um, and I try to really just get him to understand that, it's like, the fact that you're even here today to make choices is is a blessing. You talked about miracles.
mm,
Happens every day,
yeah,
all day, every day. And it's your choice whether you see them or not.
yeah,
We walk around with these blinders on, and it's either blinders for work or blinders for bills, or blinders for whatever it is. And they really take you away from recognizing those miracles that happen every day. And, I think the best things that I've experienced that get me back to that point of taking those blinders off is, at the end of the day, you sit down and you pray, whether it's with your family at dinner, or you say some prayers before you go to bed, and you have that realization in your mind. You're like, man, I really haven't talked too much today,
yeah,
or I haven't talked too much this week.
yeah,
And that's a really great recentering, and it shows. And I think that, in those moments, it's really valuable to Christ for you to have that feeling,
mm,
because that is that love.
yeah,
If you didn't love, you wouldn't feel that.
right,
If you
yeah,
didn't have the motivation, or if you didn't have the desire to have that relationship, it's not necessarily like this shameful guilt that's like tearing you down and tearing you
yeah. It
apart,
shouldn't be like that. Yeah,
but it's this feeling like, I can do better,
yeah,
and I will.
yeah,
I think that's huge. If there's any advice that you'd give, anything that you'd like to end with,
yeah.
it could be scripture that you kind of hold close to your heart, or advice for anybody that would be watching this. I'd love for people to hear what you have to say, and we can leave them with that.
Yeah, I think when you brought um this up, Tony, that you were working on this, and I mean I was excited and inspired by you starting all this, but um it's kind of a diamond in the rough with like all of us, I don't care who you are, like all of us need some type of purpose to find happiness, but like really find meaning in life. And I think a huge part of why people in our society, whether it's like on an individual level, family level, or just like culture, that we go looking in all the wrong places is we're trying to find purpose in something that makes us happy or belong to something or whatever. Um, and this is a great way, it's a lot of work, like this, everything that you're putting into it, but you're trying to make it accessible, you're trying to make it easy, and you're trying to make it interesting for people to like find that like the purpose has been and is right there with a relationship with God, and it's doesn't need to be complicated. It's really fundamentally simple. But I just for people who are listening to this, I like just kind of dwelling on like what is your purpose and stuff, and what are you looking for, and that can all kind of just there's a lot of things that can be answered by having a relationship with Christ. And I am, far from, where I would like to be at this point in my walk. But I think for both of us, like we're trying to, it's like taking a hike. It's like it's just like taking another step and getting there. And I look at our society where, just to kind of illustrate it a little bit, just with so much like anxiety and depression and a lot of these like really big problems we're seeing um, in the world. But it could boil down to like individuals, that they're just trying to find purpose. And I think that a lot of us have some similarities, similar stories, or sometimes very different ones. But um, it's hard to find happiness when you don't have any sense of purpose, or self-love, or a lot of things that kind of are hand in hand with that. So it would just be to challenge the people to just it might sound hokey, but just look for those things that make you ask the question, is there something bigger than me? That could be being out in nature. It could be talking to somebody that, you know, um, might have something to say in that area, or just try going to church. I've talked to a couple people recently who are like, you know what? I haven't gone since I was a kid, but I might go to church like this Christmas. And like, do it, just go in with like an open heart and see what happens, or I talk to people who wouldn't even really say that they're Christian, but they're like, yeah, I pray, or I pray for my patients on my ride home or whatever. And it's like, that's awesome. Like that is where it starts. Like you don't need to fit into a cookie cutter, type of person to be part of this. We're all walking in the same direction. So just think about what your purpose is, and try praying. Just you'll be amazed where it gets you.
Yeah, I think the world is in general would be a much better place, because God is love. And the more that you seek him out, the easier it is to give that love back to other people,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Um, yeah, growing up the way that what you said resonates with me, because just growing up the way that I grew up, it's easy to feel a real lack of love.
mm,
And then, you're never really taught how to love yourself,
mm,
right? But man, I'll tell you, every time I open my Bible, every time I pray, every time I listen to a sermon here at church, I walk away from it thinking, how could I possibly forget how to love? How could I possibly forget how to love myself?
yeah,
Because, no matter how ugly I think I feel, or how ugly I think I am on the outside or the inside, it's like there's somebody that loves me unconditionally, and is just waiting for me to come home. You know, it's incredible what it can do for you. And Eli, I appreciate your time, man.
yeah,
It's really cool that you're able to do this. And for anybody that's listening, this is our first interview,
yeah,
hopefully of many. And really what this is designed to do is to help people recognize that, you know, there's plenty of normal people, whether it's in their own communities or whether it's here with Reason and Revelation and what we're trying to do, um, that can be resources and that can be outlets, that can be these bridges and connections between you and making that choice to go to church or open your Bible or start praying, leading your family in a godly way, whatever it is, whatever part of your life that you're in. Um, it's there and it exists, and it doesn't need to be complicated, like you said. Really, what it is you just need to take the step and make a choice, and from there, God kind of takes the rest from you.
Yeah.
You know, that's for me how you said, you know, it's like you look at me and doing what I'm doing. I feel compelled. You know,
Mhm.
it's not like I'm walking through and I've developed this plan. Uh, when I started doing this, it felt like if I didn't, I was going to explode. You
Yeah.
know, it's just a compulsion
Yeah.
of like I have to do this.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know why. I don't know. I didn't know how I was going to start it, what I was going to do. I don't even know how successful it'll be. But I think at the end of the day, if there's any people that are touched by this, mission accomplished,
Yeah.
you know. So thanks for your time, man. I
Absolutely.
seriously
No.
appreciate it.
Yeah.